back and forth affair for the ages last night. I thought, with just a couple of minutes to go, the Timberwolves had made that final run. And I thought, holy cow, I really believe the Mavs are going to win this game. Now we're down 1-0. But then, boom, 8-0 run back the other way. You make enough of your free throws, and you get an impressive Game 1 victory. And now I think, guys, talk of sweep is in order. How much you have?
I was surprised you went in 5 yesterday.
In 5?
You should be feeling great about that
you
now.
threw it out there. You just went Mavs in 5. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You didn't have them winning Game 1, though, did you? You had them straight.
I just thought 5 was the number that came to mind. That's how much better I think the Mavs are than the Timberwolves.
Even after knowing they don't ever win Game 1.
Well, then we talked about that, and I said, I guess I'm going 5 after losing Game 1. But in the postgame, we found out they had made this a huge deal over the last couple of days to not keep losing Game 1. So they were treating this almost like a Game 7, like, ain't no way we're losing another one of these bad boys. Yeah. So the question becomes, can they remain that focused for Game 2? And if they are, you're coming home to sweep this thing. We're going to bring out the brooms.
Man, if I came into this thing as confident as you did, then I would be feeling the exact same way, because I picked them and I picked Mavs in 7, and now I'm thinking 5 or 6. This was not an ideal Mavs game in the sense that the shot discrepancy when it comes to the 3-ball stuff. I mean, just that alone right there should
have sunk you.
Yes, absolutely should have sunk you.
The turnovers
they
too.
They put 6 players in double figures on that side.
Yeah.
You have the answer for Anthony Edwards, I believe.
And it's Kyrie dancing
out.
on him on the other side of the floor, and he's not attacking, and maybe that's because he's exhausted. Part of it's because of the Mavericks game plan that we know is we're going to make Anthony Edwards be a shooter, and he's kind of just acquiesced to that, at least in Game 1. It was like, my goodness. And even towards the end of that Nugget series, you saw him just kind of, here's 12 threes, here's 10 threes. If you're going to do that, Anthony Edwards, by all means, bro, I don't want you dunking on me.
Well, one of the reasons I was so confident is because they were going to make Edwards work, but I don't think there are a number 1 defense as far as being balanced, or historically how you would think of a number 1 defense. I think in the regular season and in certain matchups, they were able to play great defense, but you're depending on a really lean guy and Jaden
McDaniels. That stood out huge. Like Dort's 230 pounds, and this dude is one that can just body him.
But we talked about that, right? Didn't we say that McDaniels, he wasn't going to run through screens? He was,
not near as physical, not near as strong or big.
Yeah, Dort was a nightmare for
you got Conley, and then your superstar is having to defend. It's not like you have P.J. Washington and Derek Jones Jr., who, by the way, are way better defenders than Conley and McDaniels on the perimeter. You have 2 guys who are physically compromised. One of them is old, one of them is highly slight, and then your superstar who's going to try to lock down on somebody. I was not surprised. And then you have Giants who are not going to be quick, right? They're trying to protect the rim and secure defensive rebounds, and because of that, but you have the Giants too, so you out-rebound them by 8. But because of that, they play defense in a very specific way, and the Mavs were very easily able to get past their initial defender and then make the kind of passes against rim protectors that gave them easy hoops on the weak side time and time again. That's not going away. The Mavs are going to shoot much better from 3. They lost the turnover battle last night.
Yeah.
The Timberwolves actually
some bad ones.
Had good ball security. So I do believe this is lining up to be glorious, a return to the finals. And at 877-881-1053, we're looking for your thoughts on this, but can they maintain that focus is huge for this. And that's a big leap, because whenever they have a moment like this, there's a letdown, just like Game 4.
Yeah, but you have to know that about the Timberwolves too, because what happened, they went up 2-0 on Denver, then Denver ripped off 3 straight, and you're thinking like, oh man, this thing's over. And then, the Timberwolves found a way to close that thing out. But man, I'll tell you what, when you said 5, I'm thinking, man, Dawson might be onto something here. But I was talking to some folks with the Mavs last night after the game, and what their thought was, it was really hard for the Timberwolves to play the way they want to play against the Mavs in that pick and roll. And they felt like that they really did kill him in the paint. They thought that Edwards was not very good in that game. And we all kind of saw that with our own eyes. They did a really good job of confusing him at times. And then they also felt like, though, that he was wore out. We talked about that as well, having to deal with Kyrie and having to think. So here he is chasing Kyrie and having to think, and that kind of wore him out. they really did like what they were able to do in the fourth, though, on defense. And we saw that.
It was epic, dude.
We saw that.
They forced 5 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Luka, you can see him.
Yeah.
I mean, his entire game switched in the fourth quarter, and he was like, okay, it is absolutely time right now.
Yeah.
And he had some great defensive possessions there.
Well, how about a good start from Luka and Kyrie?
Right.
That's something we haven't seen in a while with Kyrie getting off to a pretty good start, and he was able to do that. So
phenomenal start.
They carried that through the game. So congratulations to them for doing that.
Yeah, it was the interesting role reversal where Kyrie is really just dominating half number one, and then Luka's like, okay, fourth quarter, now it's going to be my time, and just watching those two guys is insane. What those dudes are able to do. Kyrie, oh my gosh, left, right, it doesn't matter. And the exhaustion on Anthony Edwards was palpable. And I wonder what they're talking about in terms of Anthony Edwards in Minnesota right now. If that was Luka at the end of the game, just gassed and like, dude, what? Like you don't.
We've seen Luka be gassed in the end of games, though. We have.
Yeah, but we haven't seen it like that
level,
in a moment like that.
In a moment like that, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. Chris Finch, head coach at today's practice, said it was a rough film session. I told the guys it's been a long time since I've been this disappointed in your effort and performance, attitude, your application, and attention to detail just was not there. As they lose 108-105, they look at that 108 points as the biggest problem they had, just allowing the Mavericks to score way too much. I think this is the reality of dealing with two transcendent offensive weapons like Luka and Kyrie with the perfect supporting cast.
Yes, dude, that's exactly what it is. This is what you envisioned when you were as optimistic as possible when you made the trade for Kyrie to pair him with Luka. Like this is what it could be. We know there's a lot of other variables and this thing could go sideways, but this is what it could be. And now the stars are aligning. This is what it is. Two of the greatest offensive weapons coming together and not backing down from the big games and the big moments, just rising and rising. It's like, oh my gosh, I think this is just an eye-opening experience for these young dudes in Minnesota.
Yeah, and we'll see what kind of adjustments they can make. I will not be surprised if this goes longer than I predicted. It's definitely not over by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel pretty dang confident in that pick. And, I think by the time we get through this series, they're going to be saying, Edwards doesn't have enough help. Just like they said about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Well, they gave away all their picks to get help. So, that's going to maybe haunt them if they lose this series, but it's a long way to go. What'd you guys think about the Hardy party for about 8 minutes last night?
Dude,
and for about 4 assists.
That was in the game notes. I'm writing stuff down like, dude, Hardy continuing to impress. At one point, Van Gundy's like, dude, Hardy's played 6 minutes and he's got 4 assists.
Yeah, he ended up playing almost 9 minutes in that game and had 4 assists. And so, he made 1 basket, but, to me, that's, if you're going to play, and play limited minutes, find a way to get something done. And he was able to do that.
Yeah, they need some sort of a guy who can break down the defense. And with Luka or Kyrie off the court, you don't really have another one.
Man, that Exum, I'm about ready to let him stand over by me for these games.
Yeah.
I don't, every time he's in there, I'm not feeling it like I did in the regular season with him.
No.
I would rather somebody else.
Completely different player.
Maybe Hardy gets, more of an opportunity there. I don't know.
Derek Lively, though, big shout out to the youngster.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Did you guys feel like, though, that he was always in there, battling just by himself with the bigs? They got those bigs in there, and like he was just like it. It felt like that meme with, when they pull the guy pulls the sword and the army's coming at him.
Yeah.
That's, to me, he is in there playing that way, having to deal, fighting by himself in there.
At times.
For a lot of those boards.
He's relentless.
He is relentless that way.
You saw the team buy in last night with that level of defensive intensity, including right down to Luka stepping back to break up that lob to Gobert that kind of clinched the game. And McMahon was hilarious pointing out in the post game. It's probably the first time he's done that on a 10-foot rim. Pretty classic post game interview.
It was, yeah. And knowing the history between the two of them, I was wondering how Luka was going to take it. I'm like hearing it, and I'm like, oh, that's McMahon's voice. But Luka kind of took it in stride. He was like, hey, you didn't see me play whenever I was, 12 and 13 years old. That's when he hit him with the 10-foot rim deal. But that was a great defensive possession that immediately turned into Luka with, I believe, like the dagger bucket.
Yeah. It was a great sequence of play from Luka. I felt like there was a time late third, early fourth where I was like, man, Luka's got to get it together. He was shooting under 40%, and at that exact moment, I thought, I'm going to tweet about this.
Oh, yeah. You want to get
And
it
I
going.
said, hold up, don't tweet about it. But I did have the thought.
Yes, you did.
And immediately he scored 7 points in a row.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm convinced. I hate to say this because it's going to sound narcissistic at the very least.
Oh, go ahead. You're that guy.
I have a theory that the sports world actually does revolve around me. We're in a sports simulation.
Oh, no.
And in these moments, whatever I think is
help the
true,
Rangers,
the opposite will happen within 30 seconds. And I've noticed this since I first covered my first NBA game back at the Rose Garden in the late 90s. I would be writing a game story in the fourth quarter, and immediately, like within 20 seconds, it would be negated. Yeah. So I gave up trying to write a story until after the game was over. Brian, that was my first inclination. The other night with Derek Lively was just the latest, and then it happened again last night. Yeah. I'm telling you.
It's
I'm sorry. The world revolves around me, though.
The opposite of what you think, right? Just whatever Dawson thinks is going to happen, we're going to go ahead and swing it the other way.
How many times did they give up on the Rangers?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
162?
That's when it really hit me smack dab in the forehead last year at about this time.
Well, how about the guarding the inbound pass, too, that made him use that timeout late in the game?
Yeah, that was great.
Clutch.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Brilliant throw from Washington. Great catch from Jones. Got the job done. And Mavs are up 1-0.